I bid you all good morning, good evening, and good night. Wherever you be watching this transmission, it is I, Mike Martins, broadcasting from Merritt, British Columbia. Oil in a slight bull, a little decline there at the end of the day. What's going on? Should we believe this oil bull run? Is oil going into a bull market again? That is the question. Guys, don't forget to sign up for Mike in the Night, the Mike in the Night-a-thon this Saturday at 6 p.m. Just go here and set your reminders on YouTube. Go here, set your reminder on the channel for Mike in the Night-a-thon. It's going to be 6 hours long. We're going to be talking about all the stuff that's happening all over the world, from economy to sickness to crime to break-ins to unemployment to layoffs. A big 6-hour show. If you want to come on the show, add me on Skype, Mike Martins 1980. Okay, here we go, guys. Well, oil prices at oilprice.com, the number one source for oil and energy news. Check them out, guys. So WTI crude down $1.42 at $23.07 a barrel, down 5%. Brent crude down 97 cents at $29.02, and OPEC basket, $26.94, up 41 cents. So what is going on? Russia's unexpected advantage in the oil price war? Well, you know, it was Russia that walked away from the meetings a few weeks back, a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, when you saw oil go to like $19 or $18 a barrel. Wow. All right, while the ruble is now at its lowest level against the dollar in 4 years, the cheaper ruble has a silver lining to Russia's oil producers in the oil price war for market share with Saudi Arabia. The collapse of the OPEC Plus deal and oil prices has hit Russia's financial markets and currency, leading to a sharp drop in the ruble versus the US dollar. That's why I asked you guys the questions in the community. Is Russia going broke, right? The lower the ruble slides against the US dollar, the lower the production cost of Russia's oil companies in US dollars are. To be sure, a crumbling ruble is not the preferred outcome of the oil price collapse for Russia's monetary system and foreign currency reserves. Still, it could help Russia oil firms to have a lower cost in the US dollar for their operations. Yeah. According to calculations by Reuters, the lifting cost per barrel of oil, equivalent to Russia's largest oil producer, state-controlled Rosneft, is now lower than the cost of Saudi Arabia's oil giant Aramco, and that is due to the falling ruble against the dollar. On the other hand, Saudi Arabia's currency, the rial, it's not the real from Brazil, but the real is pegged to the dollar and at a fixed exchange rate. So the dollar costs for Saudi Aramco are the same after the price collapse and the collapse of the OPEC coalition. So that's what happens when you have a currency pegged to another dollar, right? Last year, the average lifting cost of the dollars per barrel of oil equivalent of Rosneft was $3.10 compared to $2.80 cost per barrel of Saudi Aramco, as per company financials cited by Reuters. The crumbling ruble has now cut Rosneft's cost to $2.50 a barrel, while Aramco's cost is the same because a fixed exchange rate with the real peg to the dollar, Reuters calculations show. Oil at $25 a barrel is catastrophic, Fudin said. According to OPEC Plus deal collapse and the Saudi-Russian war until exhaustion, that follows the main reasons for the lowest prices in years. Admitting that the COVID pandemic hit economies and oil demand everywhere, Lukoil's Fedun said that if OPEC and Russia had agreed to continue with the cuts and corporation, oil prices would have now been around $50 a barrel. So these guys need to come together and actually, because there's a lot of countries depending on this, there's a lot of jobs depending on this, there's a lot of infrastructure depending on this, there's a lot of manpower depending on this, there's a lot of families depending on this. They need to work out $50 a barrel. Guys, that's not bad. 7 years ago it was $120 a barrel. I think we could get along with $50 a barrel, can we? So Russia is reportedly confident of beating the Saudis in the pump at will for market share game, but in the end, the game could turn out to be whose state's finances will withstand the self-damaging price war amid demand. So depressed even that taking 10 million BBD off the oil market now would be would not balance it. Now, so if they took off 10 million barrels per day, it still wouldn't balance it. So they're got to figure something out. So here's the deal, guys. Here's the deal. Russia lost the Cold War because they couldn't keep up with America. They couldn't keep up with production. They couldn't keep up with innovation. They couldn't keep up with anything, to a point where Russia bankrupted itself. Russia's playing a very dangerous game with this standoffish oil war that they're in right now. They're in war right now, and it's oil. It's the crude, Texas tea, you know. And then we got this one here. Trump's from oilprice.com. Trump's ultimate weapon to end the oil war, right? U.S. President Donald Trump is facing increasing calls from U.S. senators and congressmen to pressure Saudi Arabia into ending the oil price war, with one of their own Republican Party, Senator Kevin Cramer, last week urging him to impose an embargo on oil imports from Saudi Arabia, Russia, and other OPEC nations. It is not because the U.S. shale producers cannot deal with much lower sustained oil price environments as they can. It is because in order to cope with the environment, capital expenditure will have to be trimmed back to the sorts of ratios seen the last time that the Saudis tried the same thing from 2014 to 2016. Remember what happened then? Oil went from $120 a barrel to basically to $25 a barrel, if you remember that very closely. The U.S. shale sector won last time, and the price of food kept going up. Woo! I remember making a video back in 2015 how oil went down to $25-30 a barrel, and I said, guys, when oil went to $120 a barrel and the price of food kept going up, they were arguing with us, the food producers and stuff, that it costs more to transport the food, it costs more to produce the food, and it costs more to get things rolling because the price of oil and the price of gas was so high. But the price of oil goes $25 a barrel, our food prices even go up higher. Woo! Here we go.
The
oil prices
has immense powers. Are the international emergency economic power that he has.
All right. Oil prices sink as crippled demand outweighs stimulus hopes. Oil prices fell on Thursday after 3 sessions of gains as restrictions on travel worldwide crimped fuel demand, with U.S. crude futures plunging 4% after the United States scrapped plans to buy domestic oil for its emergency reserve. Concerns about demand also overshadow expectation that a $2 trillion U.S. stimulus package would bolster the economic activity. West Texas Intermediate WTI crude futures dropped 91 cents or 3.7% to $23.58 a barrel by 1:11 a.m. Eastern Time. Brent crude futures fell 11 cents to $27.28 a barrel. Both contracts are down by about 60% this year. So here it is, guys. Oil stockpiles are already rising, with tanks around the world filling fast despite the 50% and 100% jump in leasing costs. U.S. crude inventories rose by 1.6 million barrels last week, making the 9th straight week of increases. Products supplied by proxy U.S. demand dropped nearly 10% to 19.4 million barrels per day, government data showed on Wednesday. So this is coming us from Fox Business. Saudi Arabia stopped trying to support oil prices. Enter America. Early in March, oil markets' central banks seemed to go berserk. Saudi Arabia, the most powerful member of the Organization of the Petroleum Export Countries, OPEC, has long adjusted its supply to help stabilize the price of crude. Russia had teamed up with OPEC since 2016, but as COVID drove demand relentlessly down, it refused OPEC's plea to cut production. Saudi Arabia retaliated, declaring its intent to flood the global markets, and price of Brent crude have between March 5th and 18th to $25 a barrel. America stepping in on March 19th. Its dependent of energy said it will buy 77 million barrels of American crude to store in its stockpile, in its strategic stockpile. So I wanted to bring up that article because it actually explains why the Americans have so much oil in their stockpile, because they're buying it back. It's like kind of like stock buybacks, where companies, instead of investing in their companies, they're buying back stocks in their own companies so they could just make it look like the stocks are going up and they're strong and there's lots of movement, right? don't believe in the oil bulls. The world surplus could reach 20 million barrels per day in the few weeks, threatening not only to top off the shortage tanks everywhere, but to crash prices even further and shut in oil production. The shutdown of orders in the U.S. continue to multiply, confining tens of millions of people to their homes. Much of Western Europe remains on lockdown as well. The impact of the pandemic will grow as the U.S. has failed to contain its spread. Cases are doubling every few days, and state governments are rushing to impose stay-at-home orders. The response is scattershot. Much too late and still much too permissive to stop the spread. But a large-scale home isolation is now the only option to mitigate the damage. Development over the past week in terms of the spread. Okay, let's move on here. Which producers are most vulnerable? We see Canadian oil sands and Northern Sea, Latin America heavy production also being most vulnerable to a sustained period of lower prices, with further supply reductions coming from U.S. shale, and completions are no longer able to offset the declines. Standard Chartered concluded. With oil prices in the 20s, Texas oil regulators and OPEC officials find themselves talking about some theoretical coordination production cut, but against the backdrop of 20 million barrels per day surplus. That is the idea of the fanciful as trivia. Fanciful as a trivial. So they don't know if they're tricking or treating, basically what they're saying, because with the lack of demand going down, with people basically kept indoors and not seeing the day of light for a while until this thing starts to get, I guess, fixed or repaired. Yeah, it's gonna be a big deal, guys. This is a huge deal. Unfortunately, the United States, the dynamics of the pandemic will dictate the health of the American economy. The trajectory of transmission does not inspire confidence in New York. At least the rate of transmission is on track, or as bad or worse than it is in Wuhan laboratory. So there it is, guys. I wanted to throw out some oil schemes, stories out there, because I don't want people to think that oil is in a bull right now, but it is. It trickled off earlier today. Let's go really quick to Yahoo Finance here, and we can see right now. Let's go to finance. Where are you, finance? There you are. Let's go to Yahoo Finance right here. Here's oil. So oil went down $1.42 a barrel. So crude oil right now is sitting at $23.07 as we speak. And let's look at it on the last 5 days. It did see a bit of an uptick. Let's look at it for the last month. So you're seeing the huge decline there from the month of end of February, early March, and then there it is there, right there. So people are hoping for a bounce back, especially a lot of gambling investors out there gambling that it's going to bounce back and it's looking good, that things will work and blah, blah, blah. But look at it here, guys. Let's look at it again for the last day. It's pushing. It's trying. There it is for the last 5 days. It's pushing. It's trying. Oh, could we see another decline? Could we see an $18 barrel again? We might just see that again. If Russia can come to the table, and if Saudi Arabia can come to the table, and if oil ministers in the United States can't come up with something that we could work together during this time of crisis, we're fighting on every angle. Hopefully, we could make something happen together. Hopefully. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I would like to know very much. Don't forget to sign up for the Mike in the Night-a-thon, 6 hours long, and we'll go for 6 hours. I'll take washroom breaks, have somebody else on for a while, talk, discuss, go from there, and then go forward, blah, blah, blah. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching.